Welcome to PHONEWORD Workshops on Wednesday, April the 15th, 2015. It is almost 11. It is 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and today we're going to be talking about WebRTC, blockchain, and Registry Federation. So we're expecting a couple folks from INRENUM to be joining. There is, let's see.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Peter.
Hey,
Peter,
good to see you. How are
good
you?
to see you. I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm all right.
Good.
I have a strange camera angle. How can I? Yeah, wait a sec. I have to change my camera.
Okay. There, I think you've effectively changed it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay, good. Welcome.
So who are we waiting for?
I think the only person we're waiting for is Mishi. You know if he'll be joining us, or is he just watching today?
I'm not sure about that. He was quite busy recently. I had a couple of businesses with him, and yeah, I don't know whether or not he can make it.
Okay, he indicated that he would be watching at least, if not joining. So why don't we just go ahead and get started, and we'll see who joins. So basically, I was hoping we would talk a little bit about what has transpired with WebRTC for the INRENUM group, and what your contact has been like with, I know you were planning to reach out to AT&T and investigate their WebRTC API, and was hoping we could cover that today, as well as maybe talk a little bit about blockchain and enum Registry Federation. And then anything else you might want to talk about today, Peter, would be fine. So anything you'd like to cover today?
Well, not really. I probably have to apologize. I'm not very well prepared for this call, but yeah, I'll do my best.
That's okay. It's kind of an open session today, so what do you know what has transpired back in January? I think it was, we were talking about you guys reaching out to AT&T to get some contacts with their WebRTC API. Do you know if that's happened? I reached out to them and got some indications of some upcoming hackathons and things like that, but wasn't very successful at getting them interested in participating, at least today. So what's
Well, as far as I know, Mishi contacted them, at least the guy who was here in the call last time. And I think we're planning for the second WebRTC meeting within our community. It will be on the 19th of May in Budapest, Hungary. So that's roughly in a month away from now. So there is an ongoing preparation. We invited a couple of speakers from the commercial sector to come and talk about, WebRTC deployments, developments, services that they're offering based on WebRTC. It's definitely interesting technology. So I think Mishi contacted AT&T as well. I'm not sure whether or not they confirmed the remote participation or something. I have to check back to Mishi to see. But the agenda will be public very soon. I think within a week we're gonna announce the agenda for the meeting. So and it's very interesting. It's definitely a area that develops very, very fast. New protocol updates and standardization is happening. Browsers are implementing the WebRTC stack. So so things are happening fast.
So if you would send me a link when that is updated with your agenda, I'll be happy to post it and maybe tweet about it.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do.
So, a couple of things that have happened recently, I believe it was this week, Facebook announced that they're incorporating WebRTC into their messenger service, which I think was widely regarded as an endorsement for WebRTC. And then Twilio apparently is adding WebRTC functionality to their platform as well. So I don't know if you saw that, but there seems to be some momentum that's growing behind the WebRTC initiative. And it's my view that one of the things that's missing from WebRTC is the addressing. And I think that's an area that, we are mutually interested in, is how do you work in the naming, addressing, and numbering element to the WebRTC, connectivity, because, I think that's just an area that's rich for exploration for sure. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, definitely. So there are two major use cases, at least within our community. One is a sort of a rendezvous-based, like the traditional MCU-based service, where you reserve a virtual room for your conversations and you invite people to join that room. So from that point of view, you don't really need this kind of addressing solution, because what you need is just a common point, meeting point somewhere. So that's something which is very well implemented in the Jitsi system of Renault. So Renault is the French research education network, and they've worked together with Jitsi to deploy a WebRTC web conferencing solution based on the Jitsi video router. And what they do, you have the base URL, and you can just amend that URL with anything that you want, and that will be your virtual meeting room. And then you just email out that URL to other parties, and everybody can join. You can protect your room with passwords, stuff like that, so others can join. And that type of use works very well because of its easiness. So it's an ease of use as a very critical thing. And especially they have some numbers to compare. I think their traditional MCU-based system, they host about 5,000 conferences per month. And with this new system, which they have just started a couple of months ago, they immediately host more than 12,000 conferences per month. Because it's very, very easy to set up your conference. Just you make your URL, you post it out, and people can join, and it works. I think it only works from Google Chrome at the moment, at least reliably, but other browsers are coming as well. So that's one use case. And the second use case is more like the one-to-one discussion or kind of ad hoc making a call, pick up the phone and make a call type of work, which is missing. So this is not solved in the current solution, because we're missing some addressing elements from the architecture. So on that front, what we are doing is it's pretty much high level at the moment. So most of our institutes have their own directory where they register phone numbers or other contact details. And actually now we are checking these various directory implementations, whether or not we can harmonize the metadata, the information from those directories, and make them sort of interoperable, at least within the community. This is a very high level. It's not on the level of signaling protocols. It's more on the level of data harmonization or metadata integration. But the next step definitely would be that once we have a harmonized set of information harvested from all these directories, we should that this information should be supported by a signaling addressing protocol across the whole domain. So yeah, that use case. I mean, the second use case. Yeah, there are questions, how relevant is that? But at least we experience that there is a need for this.
Well, I think it's very relevant, and I think your, the statistics that you're quoting about, more than a doubling of use in a month period from 5,000 to 12,000 sessions. I think that's very encouraging, and I mean, it's my view that having a stable and persistent naming, addressing, and numbering system is kind of a key missing piece to all of this. So I'm encouraged to hear what the statistics that you're talking about. But that's using the Jitsi platform. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's the Jitsi implementation of WebRTC. Okay.
And what else is of interest to you and the NRenum group and community in the realm of WebRTC at this point?
So in general, we're interested in solving this real-time communication issue that our community is experiencing at the global scale. Basically, all these interoperability issues between different clients, all these separate administrative domains around the traditional video conferencing areas. It's all annoying when you want to make a call to someone. And there are two approaches. The one very practical approach is to work on the infrastructure level and make these infrastructures very robust, very interoperable. We should be very pragmatic on choosing the right protocols. Maybe create fixed rooms and advertise that. So that's one direction, which I'm not really in favor of. Another direction would be a kind of the open solution where you make sure that you agree on the basics, but on the top of that, a very robust addressing and how to say harmonized numbering solution should fix the problem of reaching out to each other and finding each other. And that's the solution which scales, I think, globally, and which eventually will benefit all users. So so interesting. So we have an architecture document wherein we try and describe a global real-time communication architecture, at least recommendations for creating such an architecture, which is still SIP-based, mostly SIP-based, some HTTP3, and it talks about protocol gateways and session border controllers, MCUs maybe, and all types of traditional video conferencing infrastructure elements. And I myself, together with the WebRTC group we incorporated into this document some aspects of WebRTC, because we believe that WebRTC have the potential to change this whole game. It's kind of a it has all the potentials to be a disruptive technology on top of this traditional real-time communication stuff. So it was at the moment we could not integrate the WebRTC components directly into this architecture because of various reasons. But at least in an annex, we said that this is the future. This is where we are getting to. Browsers are there in every device that you have. Support is coming up from industry, and despite all these glitches and fights and standardization bodies and other political issues around it, this will soon be a very powerful solution. And the users, and the thing is that the users know this, because as just the numbers, the numbers say that they are happy with it, they are using it, they don't care. I mean, we're sort of reluctant to promote such a solution where you have to use one single browser because other browsers don't support it, right? But the users, they don't seem to care. I mean, if that works with Google Chrome, I'm going to use Google Chrome. I don't care much.
Right. I don't see that as much of a friction point as it was thought to be like a year or two ago. I think it's fairly easy to communicate. Hey, just use Google Chrome, and then as more people use Google Chrome, that's going to put pressure on the other browsers to fully implement WebRTC. So I agree with you on that front. And I think the use case is very compelling once you start to use it. So anyway, any other thoughts on the WebRTC front? I'm encouraged to hear your emphasis. When will the architecture document be, or will it be publicly available? And where's that at this point?
I think it is now very close to final. So I think there will be a big meeting in the US, the Internet 2 conference in Washington DC. When is that? In 2 weeks, I think. Yeah, not the next week, but the week after. So this group will meet there, DC, to discuss about this document. So if they agree on this addition, this WebRTC extension that we made, then probably the document can be finalized in a way that we can publish it.
And will it be public once it's done?
I think, yeah, it will. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, I'd appreciate it if you could keep me updated on that as well. And if you're interested, there might be a few people that I could reach out to that might want to be part of that meeting and activity if it's open. So.
Sure. Yeah. Definitely.
So the other parts that I was interested in talking with you about today, Peter, are this notion of incorporating blockchain and then the Registry Federation part. So why don't we talk about the Registry Federation part before we get into blockchain? This architecture document that you're talking about, will that include some sort of proposals for Registry Federation? Do you know if that's part of the scope of the document?
Sort of, yes. It talks about nrenum.net as the enum tree for our community. So we're definitely promoting the use of our enum tree, obviously. But we are very, very aware that this is a closed garden in that sense. If you lock yourself into this domain. So I think the idea of federating these registry domains, I would say, as a whole, would definitely be the way forward. So we don't believe in one single tree or one centralized authority. You can actually do stuff. We tried this with public enum, with end user enum, doesn't work. But sort of a federated model among these registry domains would be the way forward. I think it's clearly articulated in that architecture document.
I agree. I think
it doesn't go further. So new technologies that you're investigating around blockchain, it's not mentioned in the document at all. I think it's a bit far. We try and take a bit. I mean, at least the document and the main contributors to the document, they're quite practical people who want to solve the issues of today. On the other hand, I believe we should look into the future. So I like this kind of researchy topic around the blockchain idea, but it's at the moment it's a bit far from this architecture document. But as a strategy, as a longer-term strategy, we should definitely investigate those opportunities. I agree.
Well, regarding the blockchain, that's kind of my feeling about it, is at this very initial stage of building a prototype, which, you know, I'm interested in, and I'm working to build a prototype. I'm thinking that, you know, from what I know about blockchain, it looks pretty promising, and might as well investigate it at this point and see if, you know, right up front, the blockchain could be incorporated into a prototype system and architecture to house or host or contain the naming, addressing, and numbering space, as was sort of attempted with Namecoin, and then see if it works, and if it's promising, then at least we'll know that. If it doesn't work, then we can always default back to the conventional DNS structure, is kind of my thinking around it. So that's why I continue to talk about blockchain, and why I'm interested in incorporating in an actual prototype platform the blockchain architecture. In any case, I think it is critical that there's some sort of history associated with at least the part of the numbering space in this. And I think Henning Schultz-Rennie has also seems to be favoring incorporating some sort of history into the architecture and the platform, whether it's conventional DNS or leveraging the inherent history that's associated with blockchain. That seems to be an element of interest. And I know, Peter, that I sent you Henning's presentation from the IETF meeting down in Texas on March 26th. Did you have a chance to take a look at that? Do you have any thoughts based upon that presentation?
Yes, I took a look at the presentation. In itself, it's very difficult to understand without actually, hearing the explanations or actual presentation. Do you know if it was recorded somehow, available at IETF somewhere? It might be interesting to listen to the actual presentation. But reading the slides, there are a couple of good ideas there. Although, as I said, it's quite difficult to understand by just reading the slides. Yeah, so the fact that blockchain is mentioned there is definitely a good thing, and I do believe that there's a fundamental difference between the blockchain architecture and the traditional DNS architecture, is that the ownership of the domains can be very easily associated with the owners, and using blockchain, that's a different approach to the problem, like in DNS, where you have a centralized body who makes all these domain ownerships registered and stuff like that. So we should leave that model behind, probably. And I'm just questioning how much we can really fall back to that once we made a distance from it. But anyway, so blockchain definitely is the way forward. Some concerns there are that it might be a bit expensive in terms of computing power that you need to mine these name coins, or even just like bitcoins. A couple of years ago, it was quite easy to craft a server in your garage and mine your own bitcoins. Nowadays, it's almost impossible, right? You need huge computing power, and your electricity bill will be much higher than the actual bitcoins that you're mining, right? So it's an expensive infrastructure, or an expensive way to secure the network and to assign ownership easily. So there must be a balance or a deal between how easy we want this to happen, and how much money we can actually invest in such an infrastructure to work and to be secure. So yeah, that's definitely. And then the other question is the computing power that you have to put behind. So now we have clouds and huge data centers everywhere around the globe. So it's getting to be more and more easy to find computing power. Even your devices are getting more and more stronger, like the mobile platforms, which is also important for WebRTC if you want to do encoding, video decoding, and stuff like that on the hardware. So there are some promising signs, but still, as of today, it seems to be an expensive solution.
Well, some others have mentioned that as well, and I think it's important to keep in mind when you're talking about blockchain and you're looking at the models that are emerging. There are two models, at least two main models that I can determine. One is proof of work, which involves this incredible arms race to harness computing power, and which seems to be just kind of out of control. And the other is proof of stake. And I think the proof of stake is actually much more compatible and conducive to the naming, addressing, and numbering realm. So I think there are some promising paths forward with the blockchain that do not require the massive computing power, massive expense, massive, and crazy race to see who's got the best computer on the block. So that's part of the direction that I think looks promising. And one of the things that was in Henning's presentation was when he was talking about blockchain was on slide 22, and I think it maybe be useful to bring that up just for folks that have not seen it. Bear with me just a moment while I bring that up. And Henning has said that it's fine to show this. It is a public document, but can you see that okay, Peter?
Yes, I can.
So, and if anybody's interested in getting this presentation, you can contact me. But on slide 22, where he talks about blockchain, and for those of you that might not know, this was a presentation that Henning Schultz-Rennie, who was the former Chief Technology Officer of the Federal Communications Commission, and who's been leading the, and here's what we're talking about in terms of Registry Federation. Just a diagram of this. I'll stop for a moment. But anyway, Henning Schultz-Rennie, who's a professor of computer science at Columbia University and the former Chief Technology Officer at the Federal Communications Commission, presented this presentation on March the 26th in Texas at the IETF Birds of a Feather get-together for the Modern Group. And this is the slide that contains the reference to blockchain right here, and I have confirmed that what was being referenced was the blockchain technology, which is the fundamental foundation of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and so forth. And we've had some sessions on blockchain in the past. But one point that Henning makes here is allocation of new numbers and changes and avoiding collisions. Well, I think resolving collisions might be a more productive context and framework to look at. I think there are going to be inherent collisions that occur as this naming, addressing, and numbering space opens up and evolves. So spending time to avoid collisions, I think might be a better approach. Is how do you resolve these collisions? How do you quickly resolve and create a system for dispute resolutions. And so that's the point that I wanted to make in this presentation by Henning. And I think it's particularly, I'm going to stop the screen share right now, but I think it's particularly relevant both in terms of the Registry Federation issue, because part of the Federation is how do you resolve these disputes, and the other part is in terms of the blockchain or DNS or whatever. You have to figure out how, if Jay claims a particular address and Peter claims a particular address, how are we quickly going to resolve that, quote, collision or that dispute? So part of what I'm hoping to address in the upcoming workshops is some methods for the dispute resolution approaches. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that topic. You have anything to add to that, Peter?
I think blockchain is promising if you know, everybody signs up to it, right? So if everybody uses that, then we can easily avoid collisions, because there is this general knowledge of the network. It's not a centrally managed something. It's a fully distributed architecture where there is this knowledge about ownership in the network, and that is maintained as a global knowledge across the network, right? So that's a big thing there. If everybody agrees and you know, buys into this model, that works very well. But the current problem with Enum, for instance, at the moment, is that what we are doing, we are just riding on top of the telco, you know, numbering allocation schema around the globe, right? We are just running on top of that, and they are not into this business at all. They don't want to give up their business. So so in that case, we are spending a lot of time resolving these collision issues, right? We don't want to collide. We don't want to clash with these numbers. So we're spending a lot of time on actually avoiding these collisions, because one big party of the one part of the coin is not in the game, right? But if eventually, you know, all these platforms will be on IP basis anyway, so not just the transport layer, but the signaling and the, you know, the upper layers are coming over to the IP world, then you know, this blockchain technology definitely has all the potentials to solve this problem.
Yep, agreed. So, all right, well, I think we pretty well covered the topics for today. Anything else you would like to announce or bring up, or topics you'd like to cover, Peter?
Yeah, so it's just the 2 events again. So within our community, there is our peers in the US. They're having this big annual conference. This is the Global Summit, the Internet 2 Global Summit, in 2 weeks. It's in Washington, DC. I'm attending that event, and you know, we're talking about global solutions. But you know, we usually discuss what we do here in Europe and what they do in the US, and how these things should come together globally with other peers in Latin America or Asia. And the other one is our small group meeting, the WebRTC group meeting. That's a focus group on the technology of WebRTC and the use of the WebRTC primarily for the research education community in Europe. And it will be mid-May, 19th of May in Hungary. So those 2 events, if anybody is interested in joining, I think those events are open to anyone to come and contribute to that.
Okay, great. And do you, if you could send me the links to those events, I'll be happy to post them on the PhoneWord workshops.
Definitely,
page.
I'll do. Yeah.
And then if you'll keep me updated on the architecture document, I think that's very much of interest, and the agenda for your May 19th WebRTC meeting, I think that's also very much of interest. So is there a cost for the meeting in DC to attend that?
Yes, there is a registration fee for the DC meeting, but there is no fee for the task force meeting in Europe.
Okay, great. All right. Well, Peter, I very much appreciate you taking the time out today to talk about these elements. I think things are shaping up, and part of the intention of the workshops is to actually get some prototype platforms up and running. And I keep thinking I'm close to that, but hopefully we are close, and we'll have something up and running that people can actually test and play with, and that's open source, and that is open for collaboration and contribution and testing. So, all right, thanks, Peter.
All right, thank you very much.
Look forward to continuing the conversation.
Keep in touch. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.